Let's get honest, cheating doesn't strike like lightning, it seeps in like smoke through a cracked window. Quiet. Subtle. Suffocating. By the time you notice, it's already settled in your lungs. What no one tells you is this: when a woman cheats, it's never clean. She leaves behind traces, on your routine, your peace, your instincts. Most men ignore them. They rationalize. But deep down, you saw it. You just didn't want it to be true. This isn't about paranoia. It's about patterns. If you felt that dull ache, that tightness in your chest whispering, "She's slipping, this is for you." Sign 1, she disconnects, but keeps smiling. She doesn't leave. She lingers. That's what makes it confusing. She's still there, saying, "Good morning," still answering your questions, but something's missing. Her presence feels hollow. You ask how she's doing. "I'm fine," she says, but it's automatic, not honest. A subtle shift has occurred. Stoic men feel it first. She's there physically, but her spirit is elsewhere. The laughter is rehearsed. Eye contact is brief, guarded. You crack a joke, she smiles, but without warmth. Not with her eyes. Not with her body. Not like before. She blames stress. Fatigue. Needing space. But those are placeholders, words used to delay, not connect. And you know it, not because you're emotional, but because you're aware. A Stoic man doesn't ignore the signs. He watches. He listens beyond words. What you're sensing is detachment. Not loud. Not messy. But slow. Subtle. Love has become labor. Her presence, a performance. When her emotional investment goes elsewhere, she rations what remains. Just enough to maintain routine. Just enough to keep you from asking too much. Just enough to make you stay. You're not crazy. You're not insecure. You're witnessing the quiet erosion of intimacy. And if you stay silent, you begin fading too, not from her life, but from your own sense of self. Because betrayal doesn't begin with lies. It begins with the slow death of truth. Sign 2, she hides in plain sight. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just silence, targeted, selective. You used to know it all, the coworker drama, the odd dream, lunch details. Now, there are compartments you're no longer invited into. She still talks, but only when it's convenient, only when it suits the image she wants you to see. Then comes the phone. It used to be just a device. Now it's glued to her hand, screen down, notifications off. She angles it away when she types. You never asked for passwords, never accused her, but somehow, you're already the problem. Ask, and you're called paranoid. Insecure. Controlling. But a Stoic man knows, truth doesn't need hiding. Real love welcomes transparency. It isn't guarded. It doesn't shrink under scrutiny. When someone values peace, they don't create confusion. What you're seeing isn't privacy, it's contrast. She was once open. Now she's evasive. That's not growth. That's concealment. And concealment always has intent. Cheating doesn't start with a kiss. It starts with a locked door in a house you once had the keys to. And the most twisted part? She'll make you doubt yourself, because as long as you question your instincts, she never has to explain. But the Stoic man doesn't need proof. He needs patterns. And when someone starts living a second life, you're not imagining it, you're just no longer part of it. Sign 3, her body stays, but the intimacy is gone. You share the same bed, but it doesn't feel like home. The warmth is missing. Something invisible separates you, something heavy. Some nights she turns away in silence. Other nights she initiates, but it feels performative. Too much. Too precise. Like she's proving something, or covering something. You're left asking, what hurts more, the absence, or the fake passion? Here's the truth, when a woman cheats, emotionally or physically, intimacy shifts. It never stays the same. Sometimes it disappears. Sometimes it morphs. But it always changes. Because intimacy is presence, not performance. And when that presence is elsewhere, you feel it, in your chest, your gut, the silence after. It feels like kissing a ghost. Like being touched, but not loved. Like being used, not cherished. Mention it, and she says. You're imagining it. I'm just tired. You're too sensitive. But you're not. You're paying attention. Sex, when genuine, is a language. And right now, the dialect has changed. It's no longer natural. It's rehearsed. And here's the reality, a woman can't give you her body while her soul belongs somewhere else. The longer you pretend otherwise, the more you abandon your own intuition, to preserve her comfort. A man rooted in reason doesn't deny the signs. He sees them. He studies them. And he moves. Because when the fire's out, you don't argue with the smoke, you look for where the match was lit. Sign 4, she starts meaningless arguments. You forget to text back, she says you don't care. You leave a dish out. She says you never listen. You give a neutral answer, she critiques your tone. At first, you try to fix it. Apologize. Replay the moments in your head, wondering what went wrong. But deep down, you know, it's not about the text. Not about the dish. Not about the tone. It's guilt, projected. She's not fighting you. She's fighting what she's done, or what she's planning to do. Conflict creates emotional distance. And in her mind, if you're the villain, she's not betraying you, she's just escaping. If you're cold, distant, overbearing, then stepping out isn't wrong. It's justified. She convinces herself first. Then she tries to convince you. And if you can't see through it, you'll play defense in a game you never started. You'll shrink to fit her new narrative. You'll question who you are, just to validate her exit. But a Stoic man sees clearly. He knows conflict like this isn't communication, it's camouflage. It's misdirection. If she paints herself as wounded, her betrayal becomes survival. But you weren't built to carry someone else's guilt. You don't argue with someone who's cast you as the villain in their story. You observe. You detach. You reclaim your peace. Because when someone uses conflict to excuse disloyalty, the only way to win is not to play. Sign 5, her future no longer includes you. This one doesn't shout. It whispers. She doesn't fight. She doesn't leave. She just edits the vision. Quietly. You used to dream together, when we get a place, where we'll go next. Now. I've been thinking of moving. I need to focus on myself. No more we. Just me. You ask about it, and she accuses you of overthinking. Of being too sensitive. But the Stoic man knows, people don't fantasize about leaving unless they already have, in their mind. By the time she tells you, it's not a choice, it's a conclusion. She's been practicing this goodbye long before saying it. Every, I just need time, was a countdown. Every day you stayed, hoping for warmth. She was adjusting to the cold. That's why her hugs feel mechanical. Her eyes look past you. Her touch feels like obligation, not affection. And here's the sharpest truth. She's not confused. She's rehearsing. She's deleting you from the future before she exits the present. If you don't accept her quiet exit plan, you'll haunt a relationship that no longer exists. But a grounded man doesn't beg. He doesn't plead for space in someone's vision. He doesn't stay where his presence is merely tolerated. Because dignity doesn't raise its voice, it just walks away, while the other person still thinks they're in control. Let's make this clear. Cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom. It starts in the silence. In the unanswered questions. In the smile that doesn't reach her eyes. In the, "I'm fine," that clearly isn't. It begins the moment she starts rationing love, and you convince yourself it's enough. She didn't cheat the day she met someone else. She cheated the day she disconnected. And chose not to return. The signs were always there. You just kept calling them phases. But the Stoic man doesn't chase ghosts. He doesn't argue with vanished energy. And he never begs for a seat where he's no longer being served. Because the moment you trade your self-respect for closeness, you've already lost more than the relationship, you've lost yourself. Here's the final truth. If she had to betray you to find herself, she was never really yours. If this resonated, if it cleared the fog, drop a comment, clarity. Because clarity isn't pain. It's freedom. And if you're done doubting your instincts, subscribe. Here, we don't chase shadows. We sharpen minds. And we never fear the truth. The exit is not the end, it's the return to self. Let's be honest, betrayal changes a man. Not in the dramatic, movie scene kind of way. Not with shouting or tears or some grand confrontation. No, it changes him quietly. Like erosion. Like water against stone. Slowly, consistently, and almost invisibly, until one day, he wakes up and no longer recognizes the man in the mirror. This isn't just about infidelity. This is about the quiet unraveling of trust, the slow theft of emotional security, and the silent demolition of something sacred, presence. And when a man lives through that, when he gives his love, his consistency, his loyalty, and still ends up discarded or doubted, something shifts deep in his foundation. Some men break. Some become bitter. But the Stoic man builds. He doesn't build walls, he builds wisdom. He doesn't vow to never love again, he simply vows to never abandon himself again in the name of love. Because here's what no one tells you, betrayal isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's an unveiling. It shows you who someone really was. But more importantly, it shows you who you were pretending not to be. The lesson beneath the pain. There is always pain in betrayal, but beneath that pain is a lesson so sharp, so clean, that if you let it cut through the noise, it will free you. The lesson is this. You can't save a relationship by bleeding out your dignity. You can't earn loyalty by tolerating neglect. And you can't create connection with someone who's already decided to live a double life. Stoicism isn't about indifference. It's not about being cold or unreachable. It's about being rooted. It's about seeing clearly and acting deliberately. It's about protecting your soul from being outsourced to the mood swings of others. And when a woman shows you, through her actions, through her silence, through her detachment, that she's no longer with you, you don't argue with her departure. You allow it. You accept it. And then you return to the only place that ever needed your loyalty in the first place, yourself. Your gut wasn't wrong, you just chose peace over proof. Here's what eats most men alive, the regret of knowing they knew. You saw the signs. You felt the shifts. You caught the patterns. But instead of acting, you hesitated. You rationalized. You chose peace over confrontation, hoping that maybe, just maybe, things would self-correct. That's not weakness, that's hope. But hope, when not grounded in reality, becomes self-harm. And every time you explained away what your intuition screamed at you, you weren't just avoiding conflict, you were abandoning your inner compass. Let this conclusion be the beginning of a new code, never again. Never again will you doubt your gut in favor of her convenience. Never again will you silence your voice to maintain false harmony. Never again will you water yourself down just to keep someone from leaving. You don't lose a woman when she cheats. You lose her the moment you begin betraying yourself to keep her. The man you must become now. There's a sacred fire every man must walk through once in his life. For some, it's heartbreak. For others, betrayal. And for the rest, it's the slow death of self-worth at the hands of someone they once trusted. But what matters isn't the fire, it's who you become on the other side. The man who emerges is not bitter, he's boundaried. He is not hard, he's discerning. He is not emotionless, he's just no longer led by emotion alone. This version of you, the post-betrayal man, is dangerous in the best possible way. Because now you don't just love deeply, you love intelligently. Now you don't just show up, you measure where you invest. Now you don't just listen to words, you watch alignment between word and deed. You've seen the cost of ignoring your own truth. And that cost is far too high to ever pay again. Healing is a warrior's path. Let's not sugarcoat it. Healing isn't easy. Especially not for men who were taught to suppress, distract, or move on quickly. But true healing is not distraction. It's digestion. It's sitting in the silence and facing every unanswered question without needing her to answer them. It's recognizing that closure doesn't come from her apology, it comes from your own clarity. It's understanding that what you feel is not weakness, but evidence that you were real in a world that often rewards the fake. The masculine wound is not heartbreak. It's self-betrayal. And healing begins when you stop making excuses for the behavior that broke you. You won't heal by jumping into another bed. You won't heal by pretending to be over it. You'll heal the moment you stop trying to resurrect what was dead long before you accepted it. Let your grief speak, but do not let it stay in charge. Give it space, not the steering wheel. And when the wave of loss hits you, ride it, don't resist it. Because what you're feeling isn't just about her. It's about all the times you abandoned your voice, your instincts, your boundaries, for someone who was already gone emotionally. What self-respect looks like now. Self-respect after betrayal doesn't look like anger, it looks like discernment. It doesn't need revenge. It doesn't need to prove her wrong. It just walks away, clean, clear, and composed. Here's what that looks like in real time. You stop checking her social media. You stop fantasizing about, what if she came back? You stop explaining your worth to anyone who made you question it. You stop replaying conversations trying to find the perfect line that could have changed the outcome. You stop asking, was I not enough, and start asking, why did I keep settling for less than I deserve? The truth is, you weren't betrayed because you lacked value. You were betrayed because she failed to honor it. That's not your shame, that's her loss. From Stoic to sovereign. The Stoic man is unshaken by what he cannot control. But the sovereign man? He goes a step further, he creates a life so full of purpose, passion, and power that betrayal becomes nothing more than a redirection. This is your invitation into sovereignty. Not to harden your heart, but to raise your standard. Not to distrust every woman, but to trust yourself so deeply that you never again abandon your gut for a temporary illusion of love. You don't just deserve loyalty, you require it. You don't just desire peace, you protect it. You don't just want truth, you live by it. This is the life of a grounded man. One who's felt the sting of deception and refused to let it make him cynical. One who's kissed the fire and came out refined, not burned. Freedom lives on the other side of acceptance. Let's be clear about something, the woman who betrayed you is not your enemy. She's a teacher. A painful one, but a necessary one. She showed you the cost of compromise. She showed you what happens when you override your instincts. She showed you the difference between love and attachment. And now, she no longer holds power over your peace. Because you've learned that forgiveness isn't about her, it's about cutting the cord that kept your soul tied to a ghost. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It's liberation. And once you forgive, not to welcome her back, but to reclaim your mind, you're free. No more replaying. No more resentment. No more waiting for karma. Just movement. Forward. Clear. Unapologetic. This is not the end, it's the unveiling. If you've made it this far, if these words cut through the fog, it means you're ready. Ready to see with clarity. Ready to act with integrity. Ready to stop asking questions that only kept you anchored to the past. The betrayal wasn't the end of your story. It was the moment the real story began. The story of the man who rose, not bitter, but better. The story of the man who saw clearly and moved courageously. The story of the man who didn't just heal, but elevated. So let her go. Let the illusion go. Let the version of you that tolerated it all go. You're not meant to haunt a dead relationship. You're meant to resurrect your power. And from this day forward, let this be your creed. I do not chase what disrespects me. I do not beg for love that must be rationed. I do not fight for space in a heart that's chosen elsewhere. I do not fear solitude, for it was in the silence that I found myself again. This isn't heartbreak. This is rebirth. You don't owe her another thought. But you owe yourself a future built on truth, dignity, and unshakable self-respect. Because real men don't stay where they're tolerated. They rise where they're honored. If this spoke to something deep in your gut, let that be your compass. You already have the answers. Now it's time to move. Not with noise. But with power. With precision. And with peace.